Think about the stories that shaped you, the movie that changed how you see the world, the book that got you through a hard time, the game that made you believe in teamwork and courage, the board game that'll always remind you of time spent with loved ones. Think of all the fictional characters that inspired you. We all have them, because stories aren't just entertainment. They're blueprints for who we become. Every story we love leaves a mark, a small emotional fingerprint, and over time, those fingerprints become part of our identity. That's why we quote our favorite lines, why we hum soundtracks long after the credits roll, and why certain characters feel more like friends than fiction. And we can find like-minded people in the world who will eventually become our friends. Because they're not just part of the story, they're part of our story. That's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, especially after having so many incredible interviews with creators and actors. I realized that every creation, every story, every song, every game changes us a little. The power of stories is infinite and timeless. Sometimes it inspires us to chase our dreams, how to avoid a killer, how to survive a zombie apocalypse. Sometimes it gives us the words we didn't know how to say. And sometimes it teaches us what not to become. But either way, it shapes us. That's what this video and every video going forward on this channel will be about. Not just talking about my favorite movies or books, but why they matter, how they change us, and what we as creators and shadow dwellers can learn from them. We're going to talk about the impact of stories, the hidden lessons inside our favorite scenes, how they were written and created, and what it really means to create something that moves people. I'll be sharing some behind the scenes stories, funny moments, and even interviews with actors, directors, and authors, but also tips and insights from creators on how storytelling really works. Because the truth is, whether you write books, make videos, play music, or just love stories, you're already part of something just so much bigger. Part of the creative chain that shapes what comes next. So today, let's talk about how our creations and the stories we love shape our lives, our choices, and the way we see the world. Let's start at the beginning. So how do stories actually shape us? It's not just what we watch or read, it's what we feel while we're watching or reading. Every time we experience a story, our brains simulate that reality. We live it emotionally, mentally, even physically. That's why our hearts race during a chase scene, why we tear up when a character says goodbye, and why the right soundtrack can make us feel hope even when the screen fades to black. Stories let us experience things we might never face in real life. Grief, courage, fear, love, loss, but in a safe way, where we can learn from them. It's emotional training for the human spirit. Think about how those moments linger. That speech in a movie that made you rethink your purpose, that inspired you, that book that taught you empathy, that game that showed you leadership or sacrifice. Stories give shape to our philosophies, to our ideas about right and wrong, and even to the stories we later tell ourselves. Because the truth is, every story you consume quietly teaches you how to be human. Some say we enjoy scary movies and books because it's danger at a safe distance, and I agree, but I think it's more than that. I see it as exposure therapy. Incremental exposure to the evils of the world, being scared, threatened in uncomfortable or shocking situations, and how to act. When I talk to creators, actors, writers, filmmakers, I always ask them, how did this story change you? And the answer is almost always the same. They started a project thinking they were making a story, but by the end, the story was making them. It changed them. It changed how they saw the world. It made them braver or more patient or more aware of the people around them. That's the dual power of storytelling. The audience is transformed by what they consume, and the creator is transformed by what they create. When I wrote my first stories, I thought I was just creating for fun, to entertain, to express, or to make money. But over time, I realized I was really writing to understand myself, to process what scared me, to imagine who I wanted to become. And that's something I see in almost every creative person I meet. We don't just make stories, we live them, we grow through them. They become mirrors, showing us who we are and who we could still be. And I don't care how old you are, it's still possible. So before we move on, I want you to think about the stories that live inside you. Which ones shaped how you see the world? Which ones changed how you act or how you dream? Because once you understand why those stories matter, you start to understand the kind of stories you were meant to tell, or the stories you need in this stage of your life. Let's talk about that next. When we create something, a story, a painting, short film, a game, we're not just making art. We're revealing a piece of ourselves. Every creative project we take on starts as an idea. And that idea is born out of our life experiences, our creativity, and the things that have shaped and inspired us up to that point, and thereby ends as a mirror of ourselves. Because at some point, the story starts talking back. You start writing a scene, and you need to visualize what the character would do, how they'd react. We start exploring fears you didn't even know were still sitting inside you. Art has a funny way of holding a mirror up to our subconscious. As a reader or viewer, we do the same thing. We put ourselves in that position with the question, what would I do? How would I get out? What would I do to stay alive? And we learn from the character's mistakes, as we should. We should always learn not just from our own mistakes, but from other people's and even characters' mistakes. We can discover patience, learn empathy, simply learn to finish what we started. And that's powerful. Because creation in its purest form is self-discovery in motion. We are the ones who either create or the ones these things are being created for. Creation also means vulnerability because you're putting yourself out there. And I hope and believe readers and viewers know that. I think people love hearing from their favorite actors, directors, authors, artists, etc., especially for that reason. Creating means stepping into the unknown and risking that someone might not get it. And that's okay, because stories aren't meant for everyone. They're meant for the people who need them. Sometimes we might not need that story at that specific time, but later in our lives it starts calling to us, and then we get it. Some of your art will make people think, some will make them laugh, some might make them uncomfortable. But every reaction means you made them feel, you made them experience. And that's the goal of every creator. And this is where the magic happens, when creation connects us. When your story reaches someone who's been feeling alone or misunderstood, and suddenly they see themselves in your words and in your characters, that's when storytelling stops being a solo act and becomes a shared experience. Now, a lot of authors sometimes lose sight of this, since writing can be such a solitary experience. It's that shared experience that turns a film into fandom, a book into a movement, and a game into a lifelong memory between friends. Creation builds community. It bridges the space between hearts and minds, and I hope that's the sort of place the House of Shadows and Ink will eventually become. So whether you're creating for millions or just one person, even if that one person is you, remember this. The art you make today is shaping the world tomorrow. And somewhere out there, someone's waiting for the story only you can tell. Every story you love was once a spark in someone's mind, and every spark has the power to light the way for someone else. So keep creating, keep sharing, and keep letting stories remind you that the world, even at its darkest, is full of light. And before I forget, if you are a fellow author of horror, dark fiction, speculative, comment, pick me below, and I'll get back to you with a link for a free downloadable ebook of about 10,000 words that I think you might find interesting. So when did you first start belonging? When someone asked you, you felt that too? Or when you realized you had so much in common with the people who created your favorite projects? I think that's why we enjoy behind the scenes content so much, or watching interviews. And we've got a lot of access to those things here at the House of Shadows and Ink, be it artists, authors, editors, directors, actors, screenwriters, game writers, comic book writers, etc. One thing I've learned from this industry is that you have to treat people with respect. And if they enjoy chatting with you, they're going to open up more doors for you. And that means more people to invite. And if you watch and share our interviews and insights and we get more views, we'll be able to attract even more creators. And that's something beautiful, because the line between creators and shadow dwellers, those people who are making the art and those who love the art, is fading. We live in a time where fans create art, fan fiction, fan films, where writers connect directly to fans online, where filmmakers reply to comments. Honestly, I think that's one of the best things to ever happen to creativity. It might even be our answer to the AI issue. We want to see the real person behind the projects. The distance between the story and the audience has never been this small. And who knows? A reader could become a writer, a viewer, a filmmaker, a listener, a songwriter. And that's the real magic of storytelling right there. We don't just consume stories, we continue them. So to my shadow dwellers, the readers, the viewers, the gamers, the fans, don't ever underestimate the power your love for a story has. Your passion, your excitement, your comments, your fan art, your likes and shares. That's the fuel that keeps creators going. Every message, every review, every "this story meant something to me," that's what turns exhaustion into purpose. Creators keep creating because of you. And to my fellow creators, remember this: your work is changing someone's life, even if you never see it. Even if no one says a word, even if the video gets 10 views or the book sells 5 copies. Someone out there saw your art at exactly the right time and felt less alone. And that's the quiet miracle of storytelling. So whether you're creating or consuming, whether you're the one shining the light or the one dwelling in the shadows, all part of the same story. And maybe that's what it's all about. Not who creates or who follows, but how we inspire each other to keep going. So what's next for the House of Shadows and Ink? From here on, this channel isn't just about recommending great books, games, movies, etc. It's about going deeper. We'll look at why stories matter, what they teach us, and how we can use those lessons to tell better, braver, more meaningful stories ourselves. Over the next few months, I'll be bringing you more interviews with actors, directors, authors, and creators from every corner of the storytelling world, no matter the format. We'll talk about the moments that shaped their art, the challenges they faced, and the creative sparks that changed their lives. And for my fellow creators, I'll be sharing storytelling tips straight from my own journey as a publisher, award-winning editor, story coach, author mentor, CEO, and of course, a fellow shadow dweller. We'll dive into story structure, emotional resonance, and the creative mindset that keeps us going when inspiration runs low. And we'll still have plenty of fun. Behind the scenes trivia, creative discussions, and those weird, wonderful facts that make storytelling such a wild ride. Because this isn't just a channel about stories. It's a channel about how stories shape us, how they shape us all. Together, we'll keep exploring the shadows, celebrating the creators, and reminding each other why stories will always matter. I'm Joe Mynhardt, and this is the House of Shadows and Ink, where creators and shadow dwellers meet. See you in the next story.